Okay, welcome everyone. My name's Mark Pritchard and I'm here with KL Wombacher, Hillsboro Hops Executive, Vice President and General Manager. So we're grateful to get in the door here with KL, and he's freed up some time to talk to us. And first of all, congratulations on your championship last year in the Northwest League, and that's a wonderful beginning for you there with your recent entry into the Portland market. So KL, could you just briefly kind of set the scene for our audience with respect to the franchise and its development since you've been with them?
Yeah, so I was with Yakima for 12 years in Yakima, Washington. The franchise was there for 23 years. And when the Portland Beavers left the Portland Metro, we saw the opportunity to upgrade our situation, and worked with probably 3 to 4 different cities trying to get a ballpark built, public-private partnership. Mm-hmm. And we fell with Hillsboro, and the chips landed right for us. The city was very welcoming. They were really excited to be the city that brought baseball back to the Portland Metro after a 2-year absence. The city council, every vote was unanimous in support. And then we launched in 2012. We had the groundbreaking in September. It took about 9 months to build the stadium.
Right.
We opened up mid-June of 2013. Had an amazing first season. Second year, we had a 3% attendance increase. We increased in year 2. Won our first championship. Had a great coaching staff.
Yeah.
So the first 2 years have been have exceeded every expectation we set out.
Right. So how long have you actually been serving as a general manager for?
I've been with, this will be my 15th season with the franchise and my 10th as general manager.
Okay. So could you kind of walk us through your career to actually get into that role? What sort of background did you have, and what things helped prepare you for that leadership role?
Well, it started with my excellent education at Central Washington University. At the time, they had a fitness and sports management degree that I had, and in all seriousness, though, I mean, it was a great college experience, and did an internship in Yakima in 2001. So I was about 30 miles away and in the area, and just fell in love. First day in the internship, just fell in love with being behind the scenes. I love sports. I played sports growing up, and one of my best moments was we had a game where we had a sellout crowd mid-July, or July 3rd, I guess. It was our 4th of July celebration, fireworks show. And we fell down 8-0 after 3 innings and ended up losing 14-1. We just got drilled. And I remember standing at the gates thanking people as they came out, and everyone is happy and excited and high-fiving. And finally, all the fans left, and I turned to my boss at the time. I'm just an intern, and said, "Hey, boss, the fans know we just got drilled like 14-1. Why are they in such a good mood?" And he said, "Well, Kale, the fireworks were great." And it was that moment that I realized that it's not what happens on the field. Like when you're an athlete, that's what you focus on. It's the totality of the experience,
right,
and providing those memories that people can have when they come out to the park. And so from that day on, I just fell in love with it, and was able to progress. They hired me full time. I ran the food and beverage operations, stadium operations for 2 years. They promoted me to assistant GM and kind of took a little bit more of a leadership role with staff and sponsorships and ticket sales, and then was promoted to GM before the 2005 season. And from there, just kind of tried to improve the franchise every year, and was able to oversee the effort to move the team here.
Right. So it's been a great career, even though it's still young in that respect. Twice now you've been given or awarded Executive of the Year, 2008 in the Yakima market, and then in 2013 here in the Hillsboro market with the franchise. Could you explain a little bit about what you think the selection committee was looking at? Because those are 2 very different managerial experiences.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of friends on the selection committee, so I think that certainly helped. In 2008, we had just come off our probably 4th or 5th attendance increase in a row, and we had a great front office at the time, very aggressive, very hungry in the market. We did a really good job with outside sales, selling groups, selling season tickets, pounding on doors, and we were able to take a franchise when I took over in 2004, we had probably 5 or 6 years of attendance decline, and almost every year it was kind of getting worse and worse. And so the reason that they provided the opportunity for me was to bring some energy into the franchise and breathe some new life into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, being a young new GM, we were trying everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it was an exciting time for me to kind of cut my teeth and get my experience. And we were trying all new promotions and new sales efforts, and so that growth over time, I think, showed the league that obviously they thought I was deserving of being recognized within the league. So that was a neat moment for me, and of course our organization. I mean,
Right.
it's always been we've had really good people that work for us and work hard. 2013, completely different situation. Having a new ballpark, I think you're gonna draw well, but I think the league understood that it was a challenge to move a franchise from a really small market to a major market,
Mm-hmm.
and just everything that comes with building the brand, building the fan base, building the stadium.
Right.
And with a 9-month turnaround, it was hold on for dear life a lot of
Right.
times. But again, we brought 3 other staff members from Yakima with us, and they took it full speed and really did a great job. We brought some more resources on, and again, we had a great staff,
Right.
and they work hard. They take a lot of pride in the organization, and I think when you do that, it showcases with your fans, and the fans respond to it.
Right.
And 2013 was a memorable year, and
Yeah.
the league recognized us for our efforts of not messing it up.
Right. No, it's a great story. In thinking about that transition from small market to major market, could you give us some perspective on what you think would be the differences managing in, say, single season A versus AA versus AAA in baseball? What kind of management GM differences do you see as being evident in those particular scenarios?
Well, for one, it's the amount of home games you have, and people haven't caught on to how smart we are in short season baseball, because we only have 38 home games versus 70 home games, so they have to work twice as much as us. So that's one aspect, but it's probably more market size than it is level.
Okay.
So a lot of AAA teams are going to be in bigger markets. AAA, AA teams are going to be in bigger markets. So bigger media markets,
Mm-hmm.
more responsibilities with
Mm-hmm.
doing TV interviews and radio interviews, and being the face of the team. And a major market's much different than a
Right.
smaller market. And just the opportunities from a corporate standpoint. So if you're walking into a business in a Yakima, it might be a hardware store down the street, and you're walking into a business in this market, and it's the U.S. Bank Tower. And
Mhm.
so being able to handle those situations and act professionally and represent the team
Mhm.
in a professional way is a big part of the success, because the corporate partnerships in a big market versus a small market are much different dollar figures. And so having those skills and that ability and that professionalism to sell the big deal in the big market rather than the $500 program ad
Right,
as a
right.
hardware store.
Yeah, no. So one of the things in reflecting back on 2013, which I'm sure is a highlight for you thus far, we've got some notable points for you. Your Hops team mascot, Barley, was voted the best mascot for the Northwest, and then you won Best Logo, Best Branding in 2013 with Ballpark Digest. Could you elaborate on what those were about and how those came together for you?
Well, the brand, I think, is something that has taken off a lot quicker than we anticipated, and you always hope when you come up with a new brand and a new idea that people are gonna grasp onto it, and we've certainly hit something here. And today we just made the top 4 of the Baseball America logo, best logo in the country list. So we're up against the Biloxi Shuckers. We beat out the Albuquerque Isotopes yesterday.
Right.
So that's another success for us early on with the logo. We wanted something that was going to be regionally specific,
Mhm.
that tied into Hillsboro, but also the metro area. Something that kind of has a fun tone to it,
Right.
and our biggest thing was something unique. We were the Yakima Bears. How many
Mhm.
teams are called the Bears? We wanted something that's fresh, unique, and that we can build an entire brand around, not just a cool logo that,
Right.
that we slap on a wall. And the more we did our research, the more we kept coming back to the term hops.
Mhm.
It ties into baseball with baseball terminology, with the short hop, the crow hop,
Mhm.
those sort of thing, the bad hop. It's easy to say, the hops, so it's easy
Right.
to brand from a alliterative standpoint with the HH, Hillsboro Hops.
Mhm.
And then the characters are popular in minor league baseball from a retail standpoint, and
Right.
and just the vision from our logo developer to take that character and make him into a kind of a superstar in a way.
Right.
And then, the other two pieces, adding to the agriculture roots of Hillsboro.
Right.
That's where this town started and still has a lot of
Mhm.
agriculture-based industries. And Oregon's the #2 leading producer of hops. And then finally, the craft beer scene. It's huge in Portland, and
Right.
it's huge now, spreading throughout the country. We tying into that craft beer culture of
Mhm.
pride in their beer, pride in their team, pride in their community. Craft beer drinkers they're more like wine drinkers. They're so much
Right.
different in how they view beer. And so we wanted that beer and baseball type mindset, but in a quality way.
Right.
And that's what the hops has done.
Okay, good. So great mascot, great logo, great brand, but how do you go about building that brand in a new marketplace?
Well, there's a lot of luck involved. One of the things that we did early on was work with an official beer. So we signed on with Bridgeport Brewery. They're the oldest craft brewery in Portland.
Mhm.
They came after us, and they were really excited. There's some really big breweries in Portland, and Bridgeport was really excited about joining up with us. They developed our own beer called the Long Ball Ale, excuse me, and that we launched that in year 2 in grocery stores. It's now in 6-packs all over the Northwest this year. So that has really elevated our brand. I mean, it's kind of given us a perception of a big league team, having your own logo on your own beer in grocery stores. And that association has been outstanding. And we've had a really good PR person in Brian Berger, and
Mhm.
he's done a great job getting us exposure in the media.
Mhm.
And anytime we're being awarded the Ballpark Digest Award or something like that, he's making sure that our local media understands it and really promotes it for us. We were featured in the top 20 of merchandise last year in the Sports Business Journal, and so
Mhm.
that exposure that's on a national level, but being able to leverage that at our local level for a
Right.
lot of
Right.
exposure and credibility.
Mhm.
And then just kind of having fun with the marketing, making sure that we're wearing our logo everywhere we go. We ship a lot of merchandise locally, regionally,
Mhm.
nationally. And so you get people wearing the logo, and then they're posting photos on Instagram, and we're sharing that on social media. And so
Right.
the social media aspect of it has been huge for us,
Getting the word out.
getting the word out.
Mhm. So when you think of actually the brand itself, what is Hops? How does Hops Baseball resonate with your fans here in Hillsboro and with your sponsors?
A lot of pride, and that's something that you always hope for as a pro sports team, is to have that team pride and community pride.
Mhm.
And it's something you can't fabricate. It's either there or it isn't. And one of the things when we looked at moving to the market is, it's one thing to move into Portland and be the 4th or 5th pro team in Portland, but to move into Hillsboro, we're Hillsboro's team, and
Right.
we're a big fish in a smaller pond. It's a city of close to 100,000 people now. They've got Intel here, they've got Nike close by. So it's a big city, but it's a small city relatively to the metro.
Right.
And they wanted a reason for people to come to Hillsboro, and that was their vision of the team and the stadium. And 65% of our fans are coming from outside of Hillsboro, coming to games. So they've been able to achieve that goal of bringing that visibility to Hillsboro. But they take a lot of pride in having a baseball team.
Right.
I mean, the professional baseball has always been in Portland, and now it's in Hillsboro, and
Mhm.
they take so much pride in having that here. And then with the metro area, it's always been a big baseball community, and as I said before, with the craft beer scene, and there's a lot of pride associated with the craft beer scene too. And so trying to leverage that pride into our brand and our baseball has been a key factor for us.
Okay, so if you've established that passionate connection, how do you keep it going?
That's the challenge. That's the $1 million question right there. And I think, for us, it's about staying focused 5 years down the road. And when we moved here, we never said we want to be successful in years 1, 2, or 3. We want to be successful in years 10, 15, 20. And so every decision we make in the first few years, we're thinking about how it's going to affect us in year 10, 15, 20, how we cultivate our fan base, how we treat people. If fans come out and we've got an arrogant attitude about, hey, we're the only show in town, if you want to see baseball, you have to come to our stadium, they're not going to come back. And so we have to treat them like we value their money, like we value their energy, their time to spend it with us, and provide the best customer service experience, the best ballpark experience we can. So they drive back home and they're telling 10 friends the next day what a great experience it was to come out to Hillsboro. That's the kind of mindset we need to keep it long term.
Do you feel like you're doing anything different from, say, your other rivals in the league?
Well, we don't spend a lot of time comparing ourselves to our league mates. We're really comparing ourselves to Timbers and the Blazers in the market, and we want our fan experience to be on par with their fan experience. And it's a much different level, Major League versus minor league sports, but perception is reality, and we want the perception to be close to what they're providing with their in-game experiences. Spokane and Vancouver and Eugene, and there's some teams that do a really good job in our league, and we've always been able to kind of look up to them. But we want to push the envelope a little bit more. We don't want to think of ourselves as just a minor league baseball team anymore. We really want to push from a fan experience, do things that teams aren't doing yet. Think 5 years down the road, from a technology standpoint, what's coming down the road from a technology integration, and how can we start doing that stuff now with some of the local partners we have like Intel and some of those.
So an ethic of constant improvement, basically, with your product.
Every single year. That's probably our single most focus, is how do we improve every year? How do we improve the fan experience? How do we improve our technology? How do we improve our promotions? How do we improve our customer service? We're talking about that constantly, of how do we continue to get better.
In 2014, you secured a successful stadium naming deal. Could you walk us through how that came to be?
Luck. That's, it's funny. I mean, stadium naming rights, there is a lot of luck associated with just finding the right fit. And we were really lucky that we had pitched at the Tonkin brothers at Tonkin the year before on a sponsorship, and they passed on it. But we invited him back out to a game, and he just had a great time. He brought his son and his son-in-law, and they had kind of a boys night at the ballpark. And we took great care of him, showed him what we have to offer. And he had called me the next week and said, "Hey, next year we want to sit back down with you guys." And so we were sitting and just chatting about it. I was pitching another sponsorship for him, and I was also getting ready to pitch naming rights to another company, and so I happened to drop that into the conversation just to see how he would react. And he kind of paused, and he asked who the company was, and he asked what some of the elements were, and I told him about this rooftop sign that we were going to do for the exposure on Highway 26, and you could just start to see the wheels turning. And at that point, I kind of knew that I had a shot, and so then I started just asking him some questions about what would this be a fit for them, and what would they hope to get out of it, and what would we need to do to make it work with them, and next thing you know, he's drawing out the design of the neon sign, and we talked about a big neon sign to kind of the throwback experience of signage, where you used to see a lot of neon signs, and there's an iconic one in Portland, and what could we create this iconic sign on the west side, so as people are driving back from the beach or whatever it is, this is a memory in their minds.
So the retro feel that some baseball parks have been going with.
Exactly.
Classic.
Sorry,
keep going.
Once we had the sign down, that was his hook.
Oh, okay.
And that was his hot button the whole time. He wanted that iconic sign with some motion to it, kind of like the San Francisco sign at AT&T Park, and we nailed the sign design, so we were able to get him on.
It's a good story. Another story that is another surprising one was that in 2013, I think Minor League Baseball and Sports Business Journal noted that you were one of the top 25 teams for merchandising that year. How does that happen with a short season single A club?
Well, we learned it doesn't happen very often. I mean, again, when you go back to 38 home games versus 70 games, about 80% of your sales comes during game days. Mm-hmm. And so, we've got a huge disadvantage only playing 38 games, but we were one of the top teams in online merchandise. So it ties right into the brand and the logo. It's a great logo. It's a great brand. We hit it at the right time with the craft beer culture. So you get a lot of minor league baseball collectors that will collect the cool new hat. But being able to tie into like home brewer networks and brewers festivals and beer festivals and stuff like that, where you get a lot of craft beer drinkers. And then what happens is, they wear a hat to a beer event, and you get some other hop heads, craft beer people there. They're like, hey, that's a cool hat. Where'd you get that? Oh, Hillsboro Hops, our new minor league team, hillsborohops.com. And so our online sales, we've got orders going out daily. And so we're probably one of the top 5 teams in the country as far as online merchandise. So that's where we can make up for that lack of game days.
Right, okay. When it comes to the franchise and for the league, where do you see things going over the next 3 years here?
Well, it's interesting. Minor league baseball has had pretty good growth over the last 10 years, but participation in baseball has been declining at the youth level, and so I think we have to continue to be focused on getting involved in communities and promoting baseball as an activity for kids, because a lot of us grew up playing Little League baseball, and that's what led us to going to baseball games with our parents or our friends. And so from our standpoint, we want to be iconic in the area for kids playing baseball, provide opportunities, provide sponsorships to kids, provide uniforms to kids that can't afford it, and try to eliminate as many barriers as we can to kids playing as possible. And then from there, focus on that kid's experience when they come out to the park. So we focus on the ages of 4 to 14. And what are we doing to make sure that these kids, that we blow them away with the experience, so they're begging mom and dad to go to another game. And then hopefully we get them, because a lot of us remember going to games with our parents, and so now we bring our kids to a game. Well, if we can do the same thing with these kids when they're older and their parents, they're bringing their kids, and so it's that generational pass down of going to baseball games with your family. So focusing on that experience of the kids is vital to the future. You have change in some of your staff on the field. Certainly your product in terms of your athletes changes fairly regularly. So you don't have control over that, like for instance the major leagues do. You had Mark Grace here, a former All-Star as a batting coach, and he's back with the big leagues now with the Diamondbacks. How do you manage a product that is unpredictable in that sense with respect to who you put on the field and who you have coaching at any given time? That's a challenge of ours, but I think it's trying to focus more on the brand of the product than the individual players. So the brand of our product is young, freshly drafted, newly pro athletes that have a shot at playing in the big leagues and making an impact. And so we can talk about some of the alumni that have come through our league, Russ Posey and Pablo Sandoval and Shane Victorino and Felix Hernandez and stuff, so people get a sense of where these guys are going to go, but really doing a good job telling the story of who these players are and what they have ahead of them in their future. So it's kind of that you'll see this guy in 5 years, and each year you get a fresh crop of prospects. And it's kind of the exciting thing for our level is each year you just never know what you're going to see. We've got a chance to see the #1 overall pick this year. Last year we had the Mariners have had DJ Peterson, who was the #3 overall pick a couple years ago. Mike Zunino, who was a top 5 pick. So there's been some players, Chris Bryant, who's now with the Cubs, played in this league 2 years ago, I guess. So you're going to see these guys come through our league, and I think that's the exciting thing is you see these big time prospects for the first time as a pro.
up close?
Very close. 14 rows away.
Okay, so in thinking back, if you were to provide advice for those thinking about entering sports as a career, what would it be?
Well, the first thing will be to try to get some experience while you're in college. So whether it's working with your athletic department, trying to do internships with teams, but getting some sort of experience while you're getting your degree, because the competition to get into sports is the highest it's ever been. And so the more differentiating factors, the more they can separate themselves from their competition entering the marketplace, the better off they're going to be. The second thing is you've got to focus on the business side of working in sports. It's just not good enough to be a fan and to say I grew up loving sports and I couldn't imagine working, I have a passion for sports and I couldn't imagine working anywhere else. Well, that's you and about 300 other candidates. Right. So that's just not good enough. I mean, you've got to have some business skills, some personal skills, communication skills, writing skills is something that's kind of been thrown away that we're trying to bring back. Social media skills, marketing. Right. If you can edit videos, if you can if you can understand Photoshop and do some graphic design, you have to be an expert in it. But the more tools you can bring to that organization, right, the better off you're going to be. And we always tell people when we interview, we have a great front office. We have one of the better front offices we've ever had. But we're looking for anyone that can make us better. So what can you do to make us better? And if you get a little experience while you're in college, you're going to have a better focus of where you want to go and what you want to excel in. And we also tell them you have to be great at something. You can't just be average across the board. You've got to kind of find one thing that you can really be great at, because that's what you're going to take to that team to make them better. Okay. So we're always looking for young people that can make us better. So
if there was a particular personal ethic that you took with you into the workplace that's really helped you find success, what would that be?
Personal ethic?
Yeah.
I would say honesty and commitment, and they kind of go together, but just being honest with people, being honest with your staff, being honest with your ownership group, being honest with your fans. A lot of times you want to tell people what they want to hear to make them go away or to make them happy, but people respond to honesty so much better, even if it's a fan. We had a fan that stopped us at our fan fest, and our ticket line was way too long. We didn't have enough ticket people on staff, and they drilled me for waiting in line too long. And I just said, listen, there's way more people than we expected. We messed up. We didn't have enough people here. We don't have enough computers going, and we're trying to improve it as quickly as we can, but we messed up. But I'll tell you, it won't happen again. We learned our lesson. And so that diffused the situation right away. They understood that, okay, well, at least next time they'll be better.
Right. And the commitment side? The
commitment is just, it goes with any business, but especially sports, because it takes a lot of pride in your team, and you have to be committed to the product. You have to be committed to the fans. You have to be committed to the ownership philosophy of what you're trying to achieve as an organization. Right. And, there's a lot of me, ladder climbing people in sports. They just want that next job or the next market or that next VP title. And the people that advance are the people that are more committed to the organization and put the team goals over their own. And as long as they do a good enough job and help the organization succeed, they're going to get rewarded with a promotion or get elevated within the organization. And so being committed to the organization much more than your personal goals or your personal gain is going to get you further.
Okay. And thinking about both of those, honesty and commitment, I'm thinking about how your sponsors would view that, and I think really what we're cultivating here is trust.
Bingo. And and anytime you buy something, you want to buy it from someone you trust. Right. You want to have that personal connection with that person where they're not going to rip you off. Yeah. And there's a lot of quote unquote salespeople out there, and we try to coach our people to be more like consultants than salespeople, because at the end of the day, we want it to be their decision to buy something. We don't want to sell them on it. So if we sell them on it, they're probably not going to be with us the next year or the year after. If it's their idea to do a sponsorship or to buy season tickets, they're going to take more advantage of the opportunity, and they're going to get more return out of it that way. So hopefully we'll have them long term.